And just that whole idea of, you know, eking an existence out of this wonderful, bounteous earth with your bare hands and having to navigate that world. This is the frontier of the new age, the energy frontier. I spent some time in Africa when the wealthy and big business need electricity. The poor and the middle class don't have it. They shut off the substations, and I don't want to see our country doing that, but frankly, unless we provide pathways for the most affordable and quickest to build energy, but we're kind of headed down that path. This is why I'm so passionate about residential, particularly solar shingles.
The way the country and the world in general is moving with technology right now, it's creating a need for an immense amount of power.
Yeah.
You've seen some of the big AI type farm server plants. They're building one in Austin that's supposed to be massive. How does that affect our need for energy? What's that going to do to like your traditional energy sources? Hey everybody, welcome back to Contractor Radio. I am your host, Jim Johnson, the head coach at Contractor Coach Pro, where we help people achieve their goals without sacrificing the things that matter most. Our whole goal with our show is to inform you, educate you, give you some knowledge and hopefully some understanding so that you can make wise decisions in your business and prevent a lot of those stumbling blocks and obstacles that come along. One of the things I'm super passionate about, and you could probably go back a few shows ago and you'll know that I'm pretty passionate about solar and what that looks like when it comes to being a roofer. Not necessarily a solar installer, but how does a roofer get involved in the solar game and add that to his repertoire that he offers out there to homeowners? And I'm not a big fan of like rack and panel systems and things like that. I've really honed in on the roofing shingle itself. And many of you have probably heard of like Tesla is a solar shingle and those type of things. GAF has a product, Certainty has a product. But each one of those, to be honest with you, I'm not exactly enamored with. And I don't know if they cover enough surface area, generate enough power. They're super expensive in certain cases. And then just the hurdle of a contractor learning the solar world, and that works in reverse too. Solar guys learning the roofing world is a difficult transition for both. I've seen a lot of them have some difficulties with that. So a couple of weeks ago, I got an email about a new product that's coming out from some folks that I was associated with and in that solar world and solar shingle world. And I'm super excited because we got a brainiac on with us today. This guy knows anything and everything about all the various solar shingles, how they work, the electricity, the design, and really the all-encompassing aspect of this idea of solar shingles being incorporated into our roofing world. So I'm super excited to bring on our special guest today, Peter Reese from EnergyReLeaf Energy, CTO, mastermind, unbelievable savant when it comes to solar. Welcome to the show, Peter. Good to have you on board, man.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
I got to meet you a couple of years ago. We hung out. I could tell you knew what you were talking about. And as we have these peaks and valleys in our road down the entrepreneurial world, I got to know you through that experience. And I'm excited to talk to you today with what's changed about solar shingles. What are some of the things that are going on? So before we go any further, what brought you into this world and why are you passionate about it? And what are you hoping to do with it?
Yeah, it comes to a certain point in our life where I'm always learning. I love learning. It's one of my top 5 strengths, if you will, is a learner. But at a certain point, I found myself teaching more than learning. I was a high school teacher and I thought, you know what, almost 20 years ago, I made the transition from high school teacher into energy and the environment, particularly solar. And then I worked for Xcel Energy and transmission and nuclear for a while. And for most of those 20 years, I'm like, I need to learn more. I need to learn more, just voraciously learning. And then at a certain point, I'm like, I'm pretty much unemployable because I know more. I actually feel that, okay, at a certain point, I know more than I mean, not to brag, but when you do something for 20 years, you're like, okay, I actually do know something about this at some point.
Hmm.
So my my motivation for, you know, I watched a couple of your podcasts, Jim, and you asked, why do you exist? And I thought about that, and I just want to really leave the world a better place. Not the whole world, right? I don't have that reach, but just every individual I talk with, I want them to feel like the world is a slightly better place now than it
Yeah,
was
I
before our
love it.
conversation. That's really all we can do, right? Is what we have
That's
in front of us, be present and there with people. So, and I grew up on a dairy farm. My dad did organic dairy before there was really an organic dairy industry.
yeah. Isn't that what it
And
used to be?
yeah, well, he in the 80s, right, dating myself a little bit, he was able to manage a 200-acre, 30 head cow farm, put us kids through private school and college, and just really manage things really well. He'd be the first one to acknowledge that you couldn't do that today anymore. You need to have like 5,000 cows to do anything with it. So it's a shame, but I would say that's my inspiration. He turns 90 in 3 days.
Oh,
He's still with us. My mom passed, but I would say that's, just making the world a better place, doing the right thing, even though it's difficult, and enjoying the outdoors. We grew up in Red Wing, Minnesota, beautiful country, rolling hills, just a few miles from the Mississippi River. Just awesome. And it's just, in my lifetime, I hate to be a downer, but in my lifetime, we've lost 73% of our wildlife from this beautiful planet that we've been gifted.
I'm absolutely on board with you. I feel like we have a responsibility to leave the world a better place than what we came into it. I'm not sure we're achieving that. This is why I'm passionate about alternative energy sources, taking care of our planet, being responsible, having morals and ethics and character in the business that you're in, doing right by other human beings. I think some of that may be being lost in this idea of gathering and gaining and all that other stuff that
Mhm.
so many are focused on. And it's a bit of a frustration for me, to be honest with you. So that's really one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on here. Also, I lived about 30 minutes from Red Wing, Minnesota for 18 years near River Falls, Spring Valley,
Yeah.
Wisconsin. I know how cold it is there. I know about dairy farms and all that good stuff. That is a hard life. There's no way in the world I'd ever want to do that. But he's like hard work. I got a lot of respect for your dad, and happy birthday to him too, by the way.
Yeah.
So when it comes to why solar shingles, why that? Like there's other things you actually mentioned, like nuclear energy and so like, why solar shingles and not some of the other things that are out there?
Yes. I worked at the utility for almost 7 years. Excel is a pretty good company. It's a good utility, but it's kind of the definition of the status quo. They need to be, right? We need reliability. We need affordable energy. Excel's got a over 100-year history of providing electricity for, I don't know, 9 states or something like that.
Mhm.
But they're not designed to be entrepreneurial or groundbreaking. They're kind of designed to be behind the curve, right? That's what we want. They used to call them widows and orphan stocks. So really not a match for me and my personality. I wanted to get into solar, but when I was there from 2011 to 2017, solar was kind of more of a marketing thing for Excel. I did transmission, $2 billion transmission build out, the CapEx 2020 projects that I was running supply chain and managing contracts for that. And nuclear, I did that for 3 years. I absolutely love nuclear. It's statistically per megawatt hour of energy, the safest power out there. It's also
Highest
carbon
producer.
free, the cleanest, right? And it's very cheap and affordable when it's working well.
It's got its own baggage though, right? Like it's still
Right.
one
I
of the things
mean,
where when you hear it,
we're,
you go,
we're not
oh,
here to
3 Mile
talk about
Island.
nuclear, but when you hear the word Chernobyl or Fukushima or 3 Mile
Yeah.
Island,
Yeah, I started with 3 Mile Island. So,
those words come with baggage because when things go bad with nuclear, they go really bad, really
Yeah.
fast. And, so that's not why I left nuclear. I left nuclear. I left the utility largely because I wanted to do solar. Solar is frankly the only energy that you can put on your roof. You're not going to put a nuclear plant on your roof, no matter what anyone says. You're
Be
not
all
going
about
to,
it. Let's do
I
this.
mean, you're not going to put a coal plant or a gas plant. You're just not going to do that. Maybe you have a diesel generator, but that's not something you're going to run with 24/7. Solar with batteries, you can actually run 24/7. It gets expensive when you add those batteries, but I've always been about, growing up on the farm, about independence and security. My mom was a huge fan of the Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House on the Prairie books, and just that whole idea of, eking an existence out of this wonderful, bounteous earth with your bare hands and having to navigate that world like Pa and Ma Ingalls did. Something, I'm like, this is the frontier of the new age, the energy frontier. So yeah, solar panels, exciting, love them, but it's been a little bit of a saturated space. And I would say half of the deals that we would have made when I was installing solar panels were, an aesthetic concern, right? Well, we just don't like the boxy look. And,
Yeah.
we bought our house because of the way it looks. If we put boxy solar panels on it,
Hey, it's my whole reason.
electricians, right? Electricians drilling holes in roofs. Is that where you want your electricians spending their time?
No, I don't like holes through my roof if I can avoid them. It's been my whole thing. Like, I've always wanted to have a self-sustaining home. The expense of it isn't so much about do I equal out on my electric bill or any of that kind of stuff. It's more like, can I take what God has given us and produce the amount of energy that we need to run our home with while still being something that has value down the road when I go and try to sell it. And those solar panels on a house, they're ugly as sin. Any realtor you talk to hates them. They actually
Yep.
tell the new homeowner to go make them pay for having that removed. You see a lot of that out there. And so when you can actually integrate it into the roof system, make it watertight, it just has a better aesthetic look, and it's also better for your resale value. So there's a lot of naysayers out there about solar too, like
Yeah.
the idea of the waste it creates and stuff like that whenever you're making solar panels. What's your opinion on that area?
I could talk statistics and numbers a little bit. Yes, if you're using coal to make your solar panels, you need a good source of energy to refine what is sand and heat the oxygen out of there. And then you get your silicon metallic grade ingots. It's hard for solar to do that. So a lot of it is made with coal, but the energy that's produced by a solar panel over its lifetime, which is 30, 40, 50 years, is about 5, 6 times the energy that is expended with the coal to make that. So that's one of the statistics. Yes, any energy we make does produce waste, but with solar, you're producing less waste. And yes, we do need to, especially if we're going to make solar what they call dispatchable, meaning we can control when and how much to release. We need batteries for that. There is a environmental cost to mining the lithium and other elements, particularly lithium. However, just a thought experiment, right? If we were to replace all the fossil fuels with renewables, it would require a lot of mining, but that's about 1/250th of how much coal we mine every year. So I think people, there's millions and billions and trillions, right? Each one of those is 1,000th of the next. So
And what you're doing right now is, if I'm a roofing contractor, you're giving me selling points, like why a homeowner might choose this as a solution. Those are tough questions you get asked all the time about, this as a viable option. So
yep.
the way the country and the world in general is moving with technology right now, it's creating a need for an immense amount of power.
Yeah.
You've seen some of the big AI type farm server plants. They're building one in Austin that's supposed to be massive. How does that affect our need for energy? What's that going to do to like your traditional energy sources? It's going to draw heavily on them. And so how does that affect the normal average homeowner? And can it even produce what's going to be necessary, especially in the world of AI? There's so much going on there that's drawing energy. I don't think people really understand that side of what AI is doing.
Yeah, I'm not real experienced with AI, but I walked into just a very small, like crypto mining farm one time. And the heat that was put off by those servers required, not just the power to run those servers, but also the air conditioning and the cooling and all that. And those need to run, 24/7, 365, requiring a tremendous amount of electricity. I don't have the numbers about how much electricity that they need and how much we're going to need right now. But the truth is that solar, particularly solar, is really the only electricity source that can be, frankly, installed in days. Whereas everything else, gas turbines are the next quickest that you can install. And the lead time on gas turbines right now, about 5 years, right? The makers of those, GE, Siemens, whatnot, they're booked for 5 years. Nuclear, I love nuclear, but the last nuclear plant we built in this country in Georgia, $30 billion. It took 24 years from start to finish. That's not happening in the time that we need. I spent some time in Africa, and the truth is, when the wealthy and big business need electricity, the poor and the middle class don't have it. They shut off the substations to their developments. And I don't want to see our country doing that. But frankly, unless we provide pathways for the most affordable and quickest to build energy, we're kind of headed down that path. And this is why I'm so passionate about residential, particularly solar shingles, because there's 5 million homes in the US that need new roofs every year. At least half of those homeowners have thought about seriously putting solar on their house, and about 1 million of those sites are really good locations for it. No company really makes a solar shingle that a roofer can actually install. Tesla's expensive, GAF is expensive, but if we could do 1 million homes a year, that's like 10 gigawatts, like 10 nuclear plants worth of electricity. Put a little batteries on there. What we can do is very possible. We just need to be allowed to do it.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of what I'm attempting to do here. I'm putting solar shingles on my own home here this fall. They're actually sitting outside my driveway right now.
However I can help, Jim, like
Yeah, I will
for
get
the world, for the public, I will help you however you
yeah,
need to get those on there.
we'll get that figured out for sure. I just had some details to get put together. One is the
Yep.
electrician aspect of things. Like, hey, what do I have to do? And do I have to connect to the grid and all that other stuff? Everything I'm finding out is I don't have to do any of that. I only have to
Right.
connect to the grid if I want to make money off of my electricity, which mine is not, that's not the goal. I want to be self-contained. And if somebody decides to shut off my power or the grid isn't working, I want to be able to still do what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so that's my end goal with this thing. The the solar shingles have had a varying degree of amount of power that they can generate, and it's based
Correct.
on the number of watts per shingle and stuff like that. How does Relief, because that's, and a Relief, it's not like LIEF, it's LEAF. I love that. I thought that was a great name, by the
Yep.
way. How does that compare to maybe older technology and some of that stuff that's going on out there today?
Yeah. So when solar shingles first came around, Dow Powerhouse is probably the first of the attempts at mass marketing. Solar shingles were a thin film, a number of different, gallium arsenide. The efficiency, the conversion of the sunlight hitting the photovoltaic element was pretty low compared to what is now, monosilicon. And really, China about 10, 15 years ago decided they were going to be the world leader, and they threw billions and billions of dollars at the monocrystalline. So other promising technologies, particularly thin film technologies, really just couldn't compete with that type of state support for one particular technology. So a lot of the US, frankly, lost our lead in solar about 15 years ago when China threw all that money at the monosilicon. What I'm saying is just about all solar shingles out there now are the same technology as solar panels. They're just in a different frame, right? So they essentially have the same efficiency. The conversion is about 20%, the light hitting the roof. And just, before someone says, well, 20% is not that great. Well, compare that to 0% of your asphalt roof. And now all that sunlight is now heat that your air conditioning needs to get rid of. So that's way of saying it is, you're turning that heat into electricity rather than a problem for your building. It's becoming a solution.
It actually blew my mind when we flew a drone over that with a FLIR camera that it was cooler where the solar shingles were for the house. So it was actually absorbing that heat, not dissipating it into the home and converting it into power. And most of the shingles that I've seen are somewhere around like 55 watts, something like that, 52, 55, that a single shingle can produce. And whichever design, the same amount of surface area generates about 55 watts. What has happened with ReLeaf in that arena?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So solar shingles up until now have been, really one-sided, right? They sit on the roof. One of the developments of the past 5 years in the solar world in general is the advent of bifacial panels. With utility scale, most of them have trackers where they track the sun from east to west. You get some bifacial gain when, especially like in Minnesota, when you have snow on the ground, there's a reflection of that energy to the backside of the panel. So you can get, 10, 15, 20, even 30% like bifacial gains. So you have a 400 watt panel that can start to act like even a 500 watt panel. So pretty exciting. So we've taken that and we have made a backplate that is photoactive. We use a highly refractive compounds within the backplate itself, which can be 100% recyclable, recycled plastic, by the way. So not only are we saving, not only are we keeping asphalt out of the landfills, but we're also keeping plastic out of the landfills too. I could go deep down that path, but back to the original question is, so now we've got our cells made of N-type heterojunction cells, which is still monosilicon wired differently, and they allow more light to pass through the cells. Now they hit that photoactive backplate, and we're actually what's called red shifting the 3 to 5% of the ultraviolet light that is unusable. We're actually red shifting it to from 100 nanometers to 500 nanometers, which is usable. So now we're getting 25 with the heterojunction, 25% efficiencies, and we're getting some bifacial gain up to 30% efficiencies or more in some conditions.
So for that same 55 watt space, what are we generating with this new technology?
So
like 72, 80?
Our upcoming product is going to be 72, 73% nominal, but with the bifacial gain, we see it acting like an 80 watt cell or 80 watt shingle. So we're talking 30, 40% more by just thinking about how light acts differently.
So we're getting kind of nerdy, and I like getting nerdy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm that guy, but I want to talk about the practical.
Yep.
On my home, we did the whole check it out. We'll see what sun hits it and how much could we offset with my house. And because I have tree cover and stuff like that, it was about 78, 80% that we could offset my electrical. So I'm not net positive. I'm not at 100%. There's still going to be this 20 to 25% that I would pay because that's what they could generate. But at 72, 80, somewhere in there, I might be able to fully offset. Is that an accurate, like, could more homes find full offset because you're generating more power in the same surface area?
I mean, yes, yes. The odd thing is that when people find that their electricity is quote unquote free, they actually start to use more. So that,
No, that won't be me.
but then people will think about, okay, maybe I'll get an electric vehicle because I'm generating my own fuel, right? And electric vehicles use a lot of electricity, right? So
Tell me about it. We have one. We bought a Ford Mustang Mach GT
I
electric
test
car.
drove one. They seem like great cars.
Unbelievable. It's so
Okay.
fast. Get the GT. It's worth the extra money. Lightning fast. But we tracked how much more was it costing us per month having an electric vehicle plugged in, because it's plugged in at the house. We put in a receptacle and everything. It was about $17 more per month.
Okay.
Now, we're spending a lot more than that in gas, and I can
Right,
guarantee you
right.
that. Plus, I don't have belts to replace, hoses to replace, engine to malfunction, any of that kind of stuff. Like, the maintenance on it. In my vehicle, I pulled in the gas station one day to get some gas. My wife was with me. She goes, "It's like the first time I've been to a gas station in 6 months. I don't even remember what this is like." But it's those types of things that make me even want more to have some of my own power supply so that I can be as self-contained as possible. And I don't want to be like Mr. Worrywart, but I like to be prepared too. If things go
Yep.
weird, I'd like to be able to not be so weird. The battery technology affords you the opportunity to bank some of that energy so that if you do have an outage, you can use that bank. Has there been any changes in battery technology that have made them more efficient, more powerful, less expensive, anything like that?
So the gold standard for efficiency and lightweight is still the lithium ion
Mhm.
battery. If you want a lot of energy in a lightweight, small package, which if you're driving a car, that's probably what you want. There's a lot of other technology out there that's only slightly less efficient. There's a lithium iron technology, which Tesla is now putting in some cars, I believe. That's much more stable.
Mhm.
So I think maybe everyone has seen lithium batteries exploding in people's pockets or fires,
Yeah, they tell you that
whatever.
thing whenever you get on a plane every time. You got any lithium batteries in there?
I
You
mean,
were
the truth is that it's actually much rarer than gasoline burning. Imagine that.
Yeah.
But it still gets press. And if, and it's legitimately a concern when you have tons and tons of lithium battery packs in utility battery farms, right? So yes, so there's lithium iron, which is if you don't need to move it around, it's heavier. It's not quite as efficient, but it's less expensive, right? Iron is more available on the Earth's crust than the other elements and like lithium ion. There's also sodium ion, which is much more environmentally, and that's frankly what we're exploring for the use in our technology. Actually, I said I'd show this.
Yeah,
This is
yeah, I
our,
was about to ask you about that.
yeah. So
Tell
depending on the
her,
market,
so one thing, if you guys are listening to the podcast right now, you have no idea what he's doing, but we want to talk about the electrical technology. Go ahead and show it and tell everybody
yeah,
what you're in your hands,
yeah.
and go
So
watch the podcast on YouTube.
one of the biggest difficulties of being a solar roofer right now is that they're not really designed for roofers. There's a lot of pieces that electricians need to manage, and they don't necessarily like being on the roof to do it. So we've designed a product the roofer can put through the roof into the decking, and then it's at 0 volts until the electrician really comes along and plugs it in and turns it on. Right? That's what electrician does.
So,
I mean,
does he have a 5-minute job now instead of a 12-hour sit out there while you install shingles and do nothing?
right. I mean, they still need to wire up the point of interconnection, but they don't need to spend hours and hours on the roof wiring up, rapid shutdown and mid-circuit interrupters and running conduit and bending conduit. We've
I,
that part of it much simpler.
I'm going to ask a very obvious question. You have a patent on that thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, if you start getting into the weeds on patent technology, there's a little bit of a because a patent, you really need to make things public, right? So that people have a chance to weigh in and say, no, I made I have a patent on that, and really litigate that. But we did patent that, right? We did patent that. We patented the photoactive nature of our backplate and some of the wiring, the things that people will look at and say, oh, that's cool. That's what we patented.
I'm going to go make my
Secrets.
own.
Yeah. There's some trade secrets, like the exact way the electrical and the batteries work within that enclosure, the exact way, like the flex circuit within the shingle itself, the exact mix of the resin that goes into the backplate. Those we're keeping trade secrets. People aren't going to be able to see what it is, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort for them to be able to reverse engineer that. So we're keeping that secret, but the obvious things we are patenting. Yes.
So first off, you've literally recreated a new product that's much more efficient. A roofer can install it. He doesn't need an electrician on site. As a matter of fact, you could install it, stick that thing through there, and the electrician could show up 2 months later if he wants to hook it up. And that's been a big problem with roofers doing solar, is the alignment and the understanding between the electrician and them. Roofers can't even install solar shingles because there's power running to it. So you've created an opportunity for roofers to step into the game, do something that they're familiar with doing in a very similar fashion, like how the shingles actually get installed. So that's all really cool stuff. How does things like new legislation, and I'll be specific about this, there's a big, beautiful bill out there that got passed, and it created a fracture between our president and old Elon over there. They don't love each other anymore. And there's these tax credits and things like that are really affecting the renewable energy world. How do you see that impact? Are you a fan of it? What should we do about it? Where are we at in that one?
So yes, solar has come a long way. It does not have a 100-year history yet that fossil fuels do. My personal opinion is taking away some of the incentives and tax credits is probably a little premature. As someone who, I call myself an eco-libertarian, I straddle left and right side of the fence.
Yeah.
I do believe that business models should be robust enough to stand on their own. The cost of solar itself has, especially residential solar, has remained stubbornly high, even with tax credits and tax incentives. When you dig into it, like the National Renewable Energy Lab did, you'll find that about half the cost of residential solar over the last couple of years has really been sales and financing costs, the customer acquisition, and then dealer fees. So I call that really subsidy-seeking behavior. If you find a way to capture that subsidy, there will be players out there that do. So,
yeah, I'm blatant about it. I feel like they're thieves and they're taking the subsidy that should have been mine and taking it for themselves.
Absolutely. And so will there be solar installers that fail because they've built their business model around a 30% margin that shouldn't be theirs anyway? It should be the homeowners. Yes, they will. And in my opinion, if any solar installers are listening, good riddance.
Yeah, 30 to
We
40%
don't actually need
dealer
you.
fees. Like charging a 30 to 40% dealer fee, it should be criminal. It really should.
Yep.
When everything else that you finance might have a 3 to 7% dealer fee and you're getting 30, 35, 40, that to me says, hey, you're a thief. You're just stealing the substance. That's all you're doing.
And that's not, I mean, you take any group of 100 people and you're going to find a sociopath in there or two, right? Whether it's oil or coal or solar or wind. Yeah,
got a question. So what are we looking at? Like if you were going to price out one of these systems and let's just keep it something simple. Most of these systems are 10 to 12 kilowatts, which is approximately 10 squares of roofing surface. Is that accurate? Am I close right there?
With the new product where we've eliminated a lot of the flashings and frames, and we've eliminated a lot of the filler that
so
you would need to run
space.
wires.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to be able to get, like 2 kilowatts per square.
Oh, wow.
Whereas, so,
I got some,
and every,
I got some Dell Powerhouse for sale out here, and I don't know, wait for the other one.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen your roof, Jim, and you have a lot of slopes and hips and valleys
That's
with,
what makes it difficult for anybody else trying to install solar. I don't care who you are, whether you're a panel installer, you're CertainTeed, you're GAF, you can't install anything of any value on my roof because you have to install it in a square or rectangle. And
yep.
because that's one of the things I love about y'all's product is you can actually offset it. You can go up a hip and have that
Yeah.
diagonal to it.
And if you put a 3.5 foot by 7 foot panel on there, I don't know how you do it on your roof. And that's,
Oh, it's sticking over the edge somewhere. So we have to have a business that is viable without subsidies. What are we looking at as far as cost goes to run your normal average house? Normal average house, about 30 squares of roofing material up there. They usually need 10 to 12 kilowatts or so, 8 to 12 usually. What does that look like as an expense to a homeowner that is justifiable?
so our business model, so we're a cooperative, and by being a cooperative, it's really a B2B to C model, right? So our customers are the contractors, right? Our contractors are members, they own us, right? So we're really, by doing that, we're able to keep the supply chain costs really transparent.
Mhm.
And so our cost to the contractors,
Way down.
we're shooting for about a $35,000 for the whole system, shingles, inverters, interconnection. We're shooting for that cost of goods, right? So then your contractor can really, they know their market better than we do, right? We're not going to try to be like a Tesla. I mean, we don't have $400 billion to, run Super Bowl ads, right? So as a cooperative, we really, we care about how the contractor runs their own business and their own region and their own area with their own customers. So that's why we have a very uniform training process for those contractors, so that we don't have $1 billion to service bad installs, right? So we need to maintain the quality control, not just in the manufacturing of the product, but also in installation of it. And the only way we can do that without NASA money is to be a cooperative and really personally know the individuals that are going to be up on the roof putting our product on people's houses.
So if I hear you correctly, it sounds to me like you're working to create a network of contractors throughout the country that are all part of this cooperative. So if they're part of a cooperative. Are they investing into it and receiving some benefit back from it as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah. So our core competencies, yes, we know how to manufacture, and yes, we know how to install things on roofs, but our core competencies as EnergyReLeaf is really in the research and development, the management of the intellectual property, and then in the training and support for the contractor network. We have sales and marketing partners who will do that. In doing that training, there is a cost to sending, really it's myself and Paul, our roofing guy. We need to send someone to Texas, for example, for 3-4 days to really train. So there's a $5,000 to $10,000 commitment for that training, but that's not just money that goes to some corporation in Wall Street or Silicon Valley. That goes into the cooperative to sustain and be able to warranty that product
Yeah,
for
you
the
got
long term.
and you got to pay the trainer, his travel, there's
Yep.
cost and everything that goes into that. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And it doesn't sound egregious by any means. I mean, what was GF charging, like $100,000 or something like that to?
Yeah. GAF is a good product for some roofs, but
Let me retract that. I'm not 100% sure it was GAF. It could have been one of them. It was something I heard. I want to be really clear about that. But there was a charge that was significant to get certified to install a product they want to sell you and make money off of too.
yeah. And,
And so there's,
just like Tesla, just like GAF, they want to work with the roofers that are already at scale and already a larger volume. Really the barriers to entry for your average contractor is pretty steep to work with. Whether or not you're paying $100,000 to be part of the program, you need to be in their presidential elite club to even talk to them about that. And by having a cooperative model, which, by the way, is the most economically resilient model out there. If we allowed just corporations like Xcel Energy and other utilities to be the only ones, you probably would have rural areas of this country that still didn't have electricity today.
Yeah, I live in an area where we're a co-op.
Yep.
I'm actually really happy with it.
They've been around for 100 years too.
Yeah, it's been around here forever. And my rates are pretty affordable, so they're not outrageous. Like I was doing some quick math on my phone over here while I was talking to you. I'm like, it's going to take me like 22 years to pay off my solar, but I don't care. I want the independence. It's not the how soon can I pay this thing off for me. I just don't want to be beholden to anyone at any point and any time that they control how my life is going to go. So I'm in that libertarian world with you probably too.
Yeah, I think that's just a opinion here. I think that libertarian, I think our founding fathers of the United States would have something to say about that too. Like we don't need those thinking British.
So I don't want to keep you longer. You've been like, we've kept you for a long time already. Just to kind of wrap a few things up. You not only have access to the Powerhouse product that can get put on right now. How many houses could you guys do with that product?
How big is your system?
My system is like 8 kilowatts. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we could do 300 of those.
Okay. So
right now,
normal average houses 2 to 3. Yeah, I don't have any kind of big mansion or anything like that.
Yeah.
People could get on board with that right away. I'm doing it. It's a great product. I believe in it, and it's wonderful. It looks good on a roof too. And I've actually been on roofs where it's installed. It's not rocket science for any contractor. Literally watch a contractor get taught one day, then watch their production manager teach their install crews the next day and install it that same day in a day and a half on a house, which was crazy to me, their very first one. Like, it's that easy. And you're only making it easier with this EnergyReLeaf product.
Right.
It's going to be less surface space. It's going to be less wasted area in flashing and stuff like that. And it's going to produce more power with less surface space as well. Here's the part that really clicks to me. You're going to make solar available to a significant percentage of people that couldn't get it before because their roof space wasn't enough for the amount of sunlight that they get. I think that's a really big competitive advantage and point to make. And I would probably strategically target those houses if I was you guys, like all the ones that are just below everybody else's capabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you got all that figured out. There's no doubt about it.
We don't have everything figured out, but we have 80 to 90% of it figured out, and that's enough to move forward. So
I agree with you.
If you wait till you have 100% of things figured out, you'll never do anything in life.
That's the beautiful part of this. I think like you guys creating this co-op thing, you're going to get a lot of really smart people all together and figure out that last 10, 15%. So you're in a little bit of a fundraising mode right now. Is that my understanding correct?
Yes, we are. And because of our libertarian independent nature, we're crowdfunding. So we did a television show called Go Fund Yourself. It's on Cheddar. You might see it streamed on gas stations or something like that. Funder is our partner for that. WeFunder/EnergyReLeaf.one.
Yeah. Hey, give me all that stuff. We'll put it in the show notes so everybody can go and check it out. And if they want to get in, I think I might go in and put something in.
Yeah. And it's harder than whining and dining and schmoozing VCs and angels, but ultimately we want average people to have a piece of it, not Silicon Valley or Wall Street, right?
It seems like part of your culture and your core values, just your guiding principles. Like, hey, we want to put this in the hands of the people, not the corporations.
Exactly. And, nothing wrong against corporations. I mean, I have to tell, I'm not a socialist. I am about as capitalist as it comes. And the cooperative is one member, one vote, right? So corporations are fine. They've done great things, but at its core, they're kind of an authoritarian business, the biggest shareholder makes all the calls, and
Have a little bit of influence too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we won't go down that road. I'll make my one political stance right now. Plant my flag right here. I despise both sides. So there we go.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, I wish that the way our government worked was for the people out there, not the people in there. And it gets more and more frustrating every day.
I'm
So
always looking for balance, and yeah, it's harder and harder to find.
how do people get a hold of you, Peter?
Well, you can go to our website, which is EnergyReLeaf.com.
Okay.
Spelled energy, RELEAF.com. Like I
Can
said,
I share your email?
yes, my email is peter@energyrelief.com.
Perfect.
That's the best way to get a hold of me. And Jim, people can also contact us through the WeFunder. I should say this too. So the great thing about crowdfunding, Regulation CF through WeFunder, is the minimum is $100 to invest. Perks kick in at $1,000. You'll get 10% off a solar roof. So that right there, you can pay you back instantly. Frankly, anything over $2,500, you need to be an accredited investor, which isn't a hard bar to meet. You just need to provide more information because, regulations are in place to protect
After
people,
all the
right?
rules.
We're not a scammer. So we're very comfortable with having our investors vetted through WeFunders.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link to WeFunder in here. I'm going to drop a link to your website. I will put your contact info in it as well. If you can get me a link to your video on TV, we'll throw that in there too.
Yep.
I'd love to see that just out of my own joy, and I would enjoy watching it. I love seeing people take on big challenges and do hard things, and I'm rooting for you guys. If I can help you in any way, hopefully this is going to be helpful, sending some people your way. And if you're out there as a homeowner, number one, look at your alternative energy sources and whatever they may be for you. Make sure that you keep control of your world. Don't let somebody else control your world. And if you're a contractor, this is one of those things that's an easy add because it's in your world now. It's not a new world that you're having to add in. You can do all the things you did before, install a product that you install normally on roofs. Now you're just doing it as a solar shingle instead of an actual shingle. And then you can cut an electrician loose and let them do their part, which is super cool to me. Like I'm excited about what you guys are doing. Wish you all the best of luck in the world. And unfortunately, we got to get out of here.
Yep.
Got to go coach some contractors.
Thank you so much for your time, Jim.
Yeah, we'll connect offline, and looking forward to watching your journey, and maybe we'll bring you on in a year, and I don't know, you'll be on a yacht somewhere.
Maybe a small sailboat teaching the kids how to sail.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Contractor Radio. Contractor Coach Pro is here to help contractors grow and scale their businesses to achieve their goals without sacrificing what matters most. We also have something new and exciting out there. You can go out and check out contractorsage.ai. Contractorsage.ai is literally a lifetime's worth of experience and knowledge, all put into an AI tool to answer your questions, whether you're an owner, a production manager, a salesperson, administrator, whatever it is that you do in your company. Take the 30 years of experience that's in this brain right here, make it accessible to you 24/7, 365. Your first 3 questions are free, so go rub that bottle and see if the genie comes out for you, get you some golden nuggets to grow your business. And we'll see you on our next episode of Contractor Radio.